Afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. This afternoon, I'm going to be reacting to a video requested by Heldrake77777. It's called Rage of the Emperor's Lost Children. First Steps to Purity. Warhammer 40k lore exploration made on the Desrat YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out my previous reaction to Doomfaith Humanity made on the Desrat YouTube channel, remember that the playlist card is going to be at the top. If you want to check out other related Warhammer 40k content created by Desrat, you'll find it in my 40k reaction playlist card at the top right here. Yes. If you want to check out the original video as well as Desrat's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. Okay, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
Здравейте, драги зрители! If you were asked
Здравейте.
which of the Emperor's sons had suffered the most, which among the thousands he uplifted were the most
Wait, what's that image? It looked like a... It was wearing Night Lord's armor, I think. Yeah, Night Lord's Astartes armor. It's a rat. Okay. Oh gosh.
Which of the Emperor's sons had suffered the most? Which among the thousands he uplifted were the most mistreated? Which of his children lost the most?
The Thunder Warriors? That's the head of a Thunder Warrior, right?
Surely, one clear answer must be coming to mind. Sit your ass down, this isn't about you! Though, if that was your guess, it isn't far from what I was alluding to. If anything, you could argue that the calamitous amount of misfortune this specific group went through is karmic justice for what they did to the Thunder Warriors. I am, of course, referring to the Firstborn Space Marines, or better known as the Terrenborn.
Yes, you could say that it is karma, because it was the Terren-born Astartes alongside the Custodians that finished off the Thunder Warriors. They essentially betrayed them and killed as many of them as possible, until, there was nothing left of them, essentially. And now you could say the same thing has happened to the Terran-born Astartes when they joined their Primarchs. I'm thinking about Logar Illyrian and what were they called again? The Imperial Heralds. The Imperial Heralds. When the Imperial Heralds were reunited with their Primarch, Logar Illyrian, Logar made sure that he would transform the Legion into his own liking. Meaning that the Imperial Heralds, the Terran-born Astartes, would have to be eradicated, systematically eradicated from the Legion and replaced with Colchizian Astartes soldiers. Those who understand his way of thinking, those who understand his way of preaching that the Emperor is a god and not preaching the Imperial truth, something that the Imperial Heralds were doing. So they were exterminated from the Legion systematically. And you could say it's karma for what has happened to the Thunder Warriors, how they were also systematically, annihilated by the Terran-born Astartes. Yeah.
Literal, very first Astartes made by the Emperor, who finished the conquest of Terra, aided in bringing the last of their prototype kin to peace, and set off into the void to bring the stars under the rightful rule of the Master of Mankind. Before any Primarch came into the scene, these warriors were humanity's greatest. However, as it happens with basically everything else when the gene sires of the legions get involved, the spotlight abandons the Terran-born Astartes rather quickly.
Yeah, well, it's not about them. It's not about them. They are tools. They are tools like all the other Astartes. They are tools. But they should not fret. Their gene sires are also tools to the Emperor. Everybody is a tool. Everybody. Except the Emperor.
Returning mainly to show their great moments of suffering, be it fending off enemies in a last stand, getting integrated along with the future ranks of their legions to the point where their original culture is practically erased, or being culled in betrayal.
Definitely. Like I stated with the Imperial Heralds, they were preaching the Imperial truth, and once they met up with the Primarch Logar Alerian, it was in complete contradiction to what Logar wanted in terms of the Litisio Divinatis and worshipping the Emperor as a god. And there can only be one side that wins over the Legion, and that will be the Primarch. So as soon as the Primarch began dismantling the Imperial Heralds and renaming them the Word Bearers and filling the ranks with Colchissian soldiers, the culture, the identity of the Imperial Heralds was eviscerated, was destroyed. And what comes from it is the Word Bearers. And I'm sure there were other Primarchs that did something similar in terms of taking out Terren Astartes soldiers from their legions. I'm just not sure who else exactly. But when you also think about the Istvan, I think it was Istvan 3, right? Yes, Istvan 3, during the Horus Heresy, how the loyalist forces were majority Terran-born Astartes. And they were the ones sent down to the planet. They are the ones who suffered the virus bombings. And whoever survived then had a bogged down guerrilla fight with the traitor forces. So yes, you could say it's some sort of karma that has come over the Terran-born Astartes, where they thought that they were special, that they were the chosen ones by the Emperor, that they are doing what is right by the Emperor's will. When in actual fact, they were just betraying. They were betraying their elder brothers, and that were the Thunder Warriors. And now that's come to bite them in the ass, when their own younger brothers are now killing them.
For that last one, you'd be correct to think of Istvan 3, where the traitor legions purged their loyalist elements, a large majority of which were the Terran-born. But that was far from the first time that they had been betrayed, since the bastard Corax practically exterminated all of the 19th's Terran-born by sending them on the most lethal missions the Legion needed to undertake.
He did? Wow, okay, this is surprising to me. Corvus Corax, really? Wow.
But this video is not meant to cover his detestable hypocrisy, so I shall move on. The point is that their numbers are severely depleted by the time the Horus Heresy rolls around, or even earlier than that in some cases, rendering them on the verge of extinction, which robs us of their outlook on things. That is what I wish to explore in this video's narrative, since I feel it is not as prominently represented in the lore as I would like it to be. Yes, there are quite a few brilliant characters that hail from the throne world, like Azek Ahriman, Nathaniel Garrow, Fabius Bile, and the literally him,
Fabius Bile comes from Terra? Wow.
Sigismund. But nearly all of them are too well assimilated into their legions after reuniting with their Primarchs, and don't really give a perspective of someone who was separate in his heritage from the other Marines. How did they feel about their fathers, their new brothers, and the homeworlds that molded them, for example?
I think the reason why we don't have any stories about the Terran-born Astartes and how they feel about their Primarchs is because, we've always been, or should I say, I have always known that the Astartes, especially, when they were looking for their Primarchs throughout the galaxy, it's something that has been a goal for the Astartes to find their progenitors, to find their gene sires. Just like the World Eaters. I forgot what they were called before they were called the World Eaters. I forgot the name. I forgot. But the World Eaters were one of the last legions to find their Primarch, and they were desperate. They were anxious. They were frustrated that, all these other legions have their Primarchs except for us. And once they finally found their Primarch, they tried their most best to get on the good side of Angron. But Angron did not like them. Angron hated them. Angron even killed some of them. but they still stayed loyal to their Primarch. Whether it's due to the indoctrination or the gene seed implantation, whatever it may be, they were loyal to Angron no matter what. They even went to the lengths of putting the butcher's nails into their skull to make it, to find a way to get closer to their Primarch. And you would find it very difficult to find someone in these Terran-born Astartes who would go against the Primarch. You would find it very difficult to find any Terran-born Astartes thinking differently from their Primarch, because they're so loyal to them, because they love them, essentially. Yeah.
I hope that I have managed to capture this particular sensation in the coming tale, and that you will find it enjoyable.
Okay, let's go.
Very quickly before proceeding to it, please subscribe to the channel for future videos. And remember to vote on the poll found in my community tab to determine the order of the next 3 months' content. Your support is greatly appreciated. Now, sit back and come along into the mind of an old man.
My pen. Festering resignation. Okay.
Blissfully, the order to end the pretend barrage and withdraw finally came. Voimir had had enough of this worthless world.
Voimir. Okay, Voimir. Where are the subtitles, that's right? You used to always put subtitles on your videos. Or maybe this is a change now, I'm not sure. But that's something I remember with your videos. You also put your own custom subtitles.
And even more of mincing reports in front of the brick stackers. Both of those, however, offered insignificant respite in the face of his greatest gripe. The same reason that had delayed their departure. The Primarch's deluded desire to bring the faulty ones to justice. His helmet preserved the ship's floor from the touch of his acidic spit, its ever-present vigil dissuading Voimir from indulging in the compulsion at the thought. With but an order, he and a handful of his few remaining Terran-born brothers would not only bring adequate sanction to those breaching appropriate conduct, but cleanse and restore the Legion to proper form. Pain flickered in his mind this time.
So we're dealing with a 8th Legion Night Lord Astartes and their Primarch Conrad Kurz. Yes, okay.
Necessary distinction, as he refused to acknowledge almost all, save a few, of the Nostraman filth as his kin. Despite doing it himself, the deranged lunatic that was their gene-sire would never take the necessary steps to rid the 8th of its infection. Always blinded by his accursed visions and the stupor following them. Voimir hated how well he had been crafted, as the compulsion to obey his progenitor, despite his detest of him, was strongly rooted.
That's interesting. That's an interesting type of conflict in his heart and mind. His mind is loyal to Conrad Kurz, but the heart has lost faith in Conrad Kurz. So he has to obey, but he still doesn't like the fact that he is obeying. Wow.
Even more, he hated that last microscopic shred of humanity that still lingered deep in him. The little voice that urged him to watch out for his own hide, which grew stronger with the untimely deaths of every other true brother he lost.
Every other true brother meaning the Terran-born Astartes. How are you still alive? How are you still alive? You should have been also, mysteriously killed.
Had become the one voice that he could not tune out. Whatever affliction the Night Haunter carried had spread among their ranks in different aspects. That one apothecary from the 10th Company, one of the madman's favorites, also had visions, brought upon with crippling pain.
Oh, there was someone else in the Legion that had the ability to see into the future? Not just Conrad Kurz. Okay.
In Voimir's case, it was significantly more subtle. For whatever reason, he had been cursed with the talent to perceive and know the emotions of those around him. Empath. He recalled the word that the Thousand Son who briefly served among them had used during his lectures to their librarius.
So, is Voimir a psyker? Or is this something else?
An awful word. Whatever hope he may have had for the rest of the Midnight Clad to improve died once he began involuntarily peering into their natures. No matter if they kept up appearances and did their best to follow Kurz's guidelines, deep down, nearly all the Legion was rotten.
Well, they do come from Nostromo. So, and that planet is filled with criminality. That planet's culture is criminality. So it's no surprise.
It sickened him to know that the Knight's children were practically extinct by now. Though definitely a curse, Voimir could not deny that what he had was a talent, which was precisely why he kept it as a secret to himself. When he focused on a single individual, from their emotional state he could read them like a book, predicting any move they would make well in advance of their body manifesting the thought.
Now that is definitely something you should keep as a secret. You don't want your potential enemies to know of your abilities. You don't want your Primarch to know about your abilities. With Conrad Kurz, he might kill you. He might just say, I saw into the future, you might become a threat to me, or you will become a threat to me, and I'm going to kill you right now. So yeah, this is something you should keep as a secret, definitely. And now that you're, not loyalist, but the Terran-born Astartes in the Legion are being culled, it's even more imperative that you keep it as a secret, to use it as a weapon when necessary for survival. Yeah.
If it came down to it, he believed he would be able to dispose of anyone among the Eighth, bar maybe some of the Atramentar and Sevatar, that despicable crow. While he
Death to the false emperor!
respected, hell, even admired the first captain's prowess, Voimir held particular loathing for him. Evidently he was able to overcome his gene-coded loyalty, able to actually talk back to the Night Haunter, and would have been able to return their Legion to glory.
How was he going to return the Legion to glory? Sevatar cannot push back on his Primarch. He cannot do that. He can try, and he will die trying. So I don't understand how was Sevatar going to save the Legion when the problem, the root cause of the problem is Conrad Kurz and where the Astartes are coming from, and that's Nostromo. There's no way that he could have helped in trying to save the Legion.
Yet he did none of that, satisfying himself with just acting like the obedient hound for a fool. An unfitting word. In the single instance where
I'd like to hear you say that in front of your Primarch, Voimir. It's nice to say such big words, calling him a fool, calling your Primarch as a fool, but I want to see you come up towards him and tell him in his face you're a fool. Because that's something that Sevatar is capable of doing. He knows the consequences of his actions if he should do that, but you cannot.
his curiosity got the better of him, Voimir tried to glean the nature of the Primarch. What he found was nothing but a mangled mess of a creature, fit only to be restrained in a padded room, let alone be given command over a necessary weapon like the Eighth. The memory of the madness was banished by a whiff of something curiously unusual approaching the juncture he was about to pass. Concern, mixed with shame. Both emanated out of Shenzak Tharth, one of the few Nostramans worthy enough to be acknowledged as a brother.
Shenzak? Okay. And what is Voimir again? A empath. Okay. Empath. Alright.
Out of courtesy, Voimir cleared his throat as he walked into his field of view and asked,
"What happened down there?"
A sigh was the first response that came out of the younger Astartes, followed by a shake of his head that preceded his words.
"We found Father.
He had fallen upon several who had strayed, butchered them, and destroyed their gene seed. Futile and wasteful. Voimir did not voice the thought.
So, it is not the first time he has done this. Why do you sound like you were nearly sentenced to mercy and forgiveness?
Involuntarily, Shenzak glanced down at his red-stained hands as he answered, "We got ambushed by the Raven Guard and their Primarch. Somehow, they had become one with the shadows. Not even the enhancement of Prey Sight could reveal them until they chose to show themselves."
Prey sight. I've heard of that word before. Is prey sight some sort of technology or some sort of organic enhancement on the bodies of Astartes? Yeah, I've heard of that word before. I think someone did request something that is related to prey sight. I just can't put my finger on it right now. But yes, I've heard of this word.
His fists clenched. "All of us, including Jago, were at their mercy, except for Father. Yet, despite having noticed them, he did nothing." The little spark of ire that the Terren was nursing flared up at the mention of their supposed mirror betters, but was quickly suppressed by the understanding of what had caused Shenzak's mood. "However, I still do not understand his words to the first captain after the 19th had left. Now is not the time for us to kill our brethren." Carefully, Tharth's hands bloomed again, rose up, and removed his helmet. "What do you make of that, old man?" he cautiously uttered.
I think it means Conrad Kurz saw into the future that this battle was going to happen, and because he is fatalistic in believing the future that he sees, he's following it by the book. And in that future, he probably saw that, his Night Lords were going to be attacked, and most of them were going to survive, and some of them were going to die, and he accepted that. And maybe that's why he did not try to do anything. Yeah.
Initially, Voimir's face partially turned away before he mirrored his brother's gesture and revealed his features as well. At a glance, one could easily mistake them as genuine kin, but upon closer inspection, preferably with better lighting, the subtle differences could be noted. Shenzak was a true Nightworlder, milky pale and his eyes devoured by his pupils. Opposite of him, the Terren, while also pale, still had some life showing upon his skin, and due to only being born in darkness rather than adapted to it, his own eyes had notably less black in them, confined in a thin ring of hazel that was his receded iris, visible only when directly illuminated. Their gazes studied the other for scant heartbeats before Voimir gave his opinion.
They may parade and pomp, claiming to be superior, but the fact of the matter is that there is little difference between us and the Ravens. Murdering criminal bastards, there are a lot of them, including their feather-mounted father. Exactly the same as a lot of the legions. Exactly the same as the scum curse dispenses justice upon. I wouldn't be surprised if he believes we should impose law upon them. The only thing we can hope for is that he isn't mad enough to initiate hostility against them without the Emperor's blessing.
Tharth laughed dryly, bereft of mirth. "You still kindle hope, brother. The thing to which we are anathema. How do you do it?"
I don't.
The Terran flatly stated.
I simply don't care.
He lied, re-equipping his helm and
Okay, you simply don't care. Alright.
walking off. By that point, the Nostraman's internal conflict had grown too tumultuous for Voimir to absorb, so he tuned it out as his mind processed the other words he would not voice. His concealed truth that he did not care about those cousins that were practically their equals, harboring hate only for those that were lesser but grew greater because their own sires were not poison to their legion.
The price of treason. Death to the false emperor! Oh, Savitar. That's a nice line though, Death to the false emperor.
Treason is a difficult mantle to embrace. Had it occurred near the Great Crusade's beginning, it would have been unthinkable. Yet, after enduring what was practically the agonizing decay and death of his brothers and Order, a little protest remained in the Terran's mind, coming to believe that they were the first to be betrayed by having the colossal vermin appointed as their leader. A belief solidified by the delight of seeing cursed Nostramo's destruction. Ironically, this seductive resignation of duty rewarded Voimir and his remaining kin plentifully. Upon the dust of Istvan, they put the haughty ravens in their place, whilst also gaining splendorous war gear from those self-righteous salamanders,
You damn traitors.
where Voimir claimed himself a new Thunderhammer. Even better, among the fires of Thramas, the fetid Night Haunter and his pet crow were lost to the First Legion. Lamentably, the ingrate Scrivok managed to usurp command. Yet the Terran did not worry, for he was certain that the Cretan would meet his end during the homecoming to the throne world. And so it would be, against the true target of Voimir's envious contempt, the former Revenants, now ascended as angels. However, he failed to foresee that it would not be a singular occurrence. Drunk on vengeful success, he had forgotten one important fact. The sons of Sanguinius were nothing like those of Corax. The Eighth were the first to strike upon the walls of the Imperial Palace, but the zeal of their assault was almost immediately blunted by the Ninth. Fervor withered to disappointment, which quickly spiked to frustration, enhanced by each of his Praetorianship falling one after the other.
Did the Blood Angels wear gold? Or is this like a specific type of captain? Huh.
Hatred was sinking its claws deep within his veins, until its miasma was temporarily banished by a thunderbolt of a message. "The Fourth are quitting the siege!" Curses spewed forth from Voimir's mind, as he fought to rally what forces remained under his command for a withdrawal.
The Iron Warriors are quitting the field? Huh. Well, the forces of chaos are chaotic. Can't really trust anyone out here.
All memory of how long they had spent fending the Blood Angels off was lost to him by the time a Thunderhawk could reach them. Its roaring engines promised salvation, but it would not find them. In the middle of its flight, an explosion shook the craft. Barely hesitating, the Terran hammered its side open and flew out on his own, expecting the rest of the squad to follow on their own jump packs. This hope was destroyed the moment he turned around, seeing only how the ship plummeted down, and the few Astartes that had left it were swarmed by red airborne predators. From within the melee, a streak of gold caught his attention, before it rammed into him, tackling them both down to the ground. With a blind kick and elbow strike, he barely managed to get the assailant off of himself, just in time to land safely, cracking the surface of whatever constituted the ground. 3 heartbeats was all the time Voimir could afford to perceive the impassive, golden features of Sanguinius himself,
Oh, it's Sanguinius.
before the sanguinary guard surged forward with his crackling power spear. Beset by a sudden flurry of strikes that he could barely evade or parry with the more cumbersome weapon in his hands, the Terran struggled to focus. All he needed to do was attune to his opponent's emotional state to be able to read his moves before they took place in order to win. Yet with each passing moment, that became little better than a fleeting dream. A connection had been made, but he could not get any kind of read on the Gilded One's moves. No kindling to stroke, no concern to trip up, only determined resolve and disciplined intent to kill. The only thing his prey would feel would be the bite of his weapon as the spear found gaps in the Night Lord's defenses, leaving melted gashes in his ceramite, but never quite breaking through to the flesh underneath. Attack had turned into a myth, banished by the need to preserve his life. Reaching its bursting point, Voimir's frustration bellowed forth in a single word.
How?
Because it left him open for an instant too long, in the span of which the sanguinary guard whirled forward after a parry, assisted by his own jump pack, landing a kick into the midnight-clad helmet's side, shattering most of it into fragments of ceramite and sending its wearer to the ground, head somehow still attached to his shoulders. That was it, Voimir thought. This is where he would die. Unmourned, useless, hated, a betrayer. A brief wonder of whether the spear or the angel's boot would be the ones to claim him crossed his mind. Instead of either one coming, however, the ringing of his head dissipated from the terrible scream of pain that tore itself out of his opponent. Mustering his remaining strength, the Terran rolled away and forced himself up to his feet, hurrying to bring oxygen back into his system. Meanwhile, the sanguinary guard had stumbled back, also breathing heavily, as if nursing a strike more severe than the one he had delivered. The most concerning thing, however, revealed itself to the Night Lord's psychic gift. Rage. Unimaginable rage swelled from within the Golden Warrior like
The Black Rage. That means Sanguinius is dead. When he was fighting against Horus Lupercal aboard the Vengeful Spirit. Yeah, this is the moment where he died, and that psychic backlash affected all the Blood Angels, and they entered into some sort of black rage. Yeah.
a black void that swallowed all brightness and reason from him, culminating in his crimson glare returning to the Praetor as he growled out, "Horus!" Confusion was forced to wait as the Gilded Killer lunged forward with renewed vigor. Every thrust, punch, and kick that he dispensed would have killed Voimir on the spot, were it not for the price this strength had demanded. Whatever the cause of this increased lethality, it had removed any and all subtlety from its wielder, making his attacks more deadly, but blindingly telegraphed. Doubly so now that there was so much raw emotion that Voimir could read. After risking several closer than advisable dodges, he dove under an incoming swipe of the spear and jumped into the air on a flaming plume. Immediately the sanguinary guard followed, rising high like a sun, then dove, intending to spear his opponent from above.
This is a nice image. That's right. Yeah, I think this is an illustration of what's happening. You know, the spear, the Blood Angel trying to attack Vormir. Yeah. It's nice.
That was the foreseen opening. Deftly, the Praetor whirled his body, rolling past and up the spear's shaft, burying the crackling thunder hammer into the angel's chest and slamming his body back into the ground. Even heavier breaths of disbelief at his success escaped between his lips as he looked upon the fallen warrior. Ceramite and bone ravaged, blood fountaining over the ruined gold, its bearer unmoving. Carefully, he stood up and continued heaving air for several moments, as if making sure that his kill was genuine, until he finally voiced his own rage.
Ow!
The word nearly tore out his throat like a howl.
How? 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 How did you ascend?
How? I thought you were saying ow. I thought he was screaming ow, ow, but he's actually saying how. Oh wow.
His surging adrenaline caused him to begin menacingly pacing up and down the length of the gilded corpse, while his ragged breathing fought for existence alongside his manic words.
You were the scum of the legions. We, the Night Children, were your betters. We were the necessary evil. You were the corpse eaters. Mutant to rubble, worse than what the poison of Nostramo turned the Eighth into, fate only for extinction! Even now, your true nature revealed itself to be your undoing. How did you ascend to be his favorite? If I am to die a demon of the night, then I demand that you answer me, angel!
I think he's dead. With that warhammer you used, you crushed his chest and his insides. I think he's dead.
Ow!
This final howl stilled Voimir's pacing, looming over his cousin's head and lifting the crackling thunderhammer high above, in preparation to obliterate the silent, unflinching, angelic visage that glared up at him. Something about that face, the placid impassivity it radiated, made the Night Lord halt for several tense moments. During their duration, in between his breaths, an urge began to rise within his core. Unusual, but not unfamiliar, as he had seen it take place in others more times than he deemed worthy of existing. Normally, any such sensation would be immediately quashed, but by this point he could no longer care. The only thing that occupied his rationale was a demand for knowledge.
Fine then.
The drake-like hammer felt freedom as its power field shut off. Its heft slid out of its thief's hands, and its head ruptured the ground where it landed.
I will answer myself.
In a near instant, Voimir's claws sank around the corpse's neck, and with a single tug, the head was liberated from its shattered frame. Hungrily, almost desperate in his haste, the murderer dug his victim's head out of the helmet and sank his teeth into its dripping gore.
Oh yeah. I forgot they could do that. You know, Astartes can eat the brain matter of their victims to gain information. Yeah. Oh yeah, and they spit acid. And they're super strong. And they have, I think, 3 lungs, 2 hearts. Ugh.
Amidst the grisly display, his body would suddenly freeze from the black torrent of rage that now engulfed him. Overwhelmed, Voimir was initially barred vision into anything and was brought down to his knees until the gleaming light of knowledge pierced him. It came bearing the form of the rage's source, a dead Primarch's visage, and within its burning eyes, the Child of Night saw the grim duty his fallen cousin had fulfilled before donning his shattered golden coffin, which was the Angel's shame.
You had sins of your own, I see. But you had no Night Hunter, no Crow Prince to enable his madness and prevent the rot from being cleansed.
Another mirthless chuckle escaped him as he set the head back where it ought to have belonged, with as much respect and dignity as was possible given the circumstances. Then stood up, picking up the Orm helmet.
Both of us will die as orphans, cousin. But you can rest in peace, for you at least got to have an actual father. Me, my birthman was lost to the dark long before I could know him. The one who raised me I betrayed, and he could be dying at his then son's clothes as we speak.
The faint smirk that had crept on Voimir's face died, replaced by a grimmer visage.
And the Nostroman mongrel dog was never one to begin with. If only we were not made to be so loyal and loving of our gene sires. Hopefully I don't have to see him ever again.
Well, your wish will come true. You won't be seeing him ever again. You'll be assassinated.
Surprisingly, the vox of his helmet had survived, announcing its life with the voice of Shenzak Tharth, accompanied by weapons fire.
Voimir! Knight, take those bastards! Are you still alive? The siege is lost. We must abscond now if we are to survive.
For a dozen heartbeats, no response was given. Instead, the Night Child looked down at the sanguinary guard. No malice existed in his own eyes, nor anything demeaning like pity or remorse. Only a placid compersion which smothered any specks of envy that originally arose within his hearts. Wordlessly, he finally took up his stolen weapon and turned to leave.
I still breathe, yes. Send me your coordinates for rendezvous.
Igniting his jump pack and leaving the scene of his crime.
The Knight's Oath.
Tragedy and struggle supplanted what little catharsis had bloomed at the heresy's beginning post-haste. Dwindling ever further, their numbers were scythed down in the fires of the Scouring and the ambush of the Eldar when the Soul Hunter sought to prey upon the Night Haunter's assassin.
Soul Hunter?
Learning that Kurz had lived soured Voimir's already bleak demeanor greatly, but thankfully that was a problem that corrected itself not long after. The scramble for his middling artifacts was beyond expected, but he never imagined that Zhou Sahal, one of his few remaining Terren brothers, would reveal himself as a fleeing thief. In the end, it did not matter. He reasoned in grieving silence, while observing the congregation his rank had admitted him to. The 10th and many other companies had already broken off and made their separate ways into the void, be it to follow the madman's command to bleed the wounded Imperium, or to simply satisfy their own vices. Present within the hall were the handful of captains and sergeants whose forces were too small to meaningfully survive on their own, with
Sorry there. That's right. I was just going to say I find it quite interesting that the Night Lords are not united in what they're going to do next after the death of their Primarch. You know, I'm hearing from Desrat that some of them went on their own merry ways, doing whatever they want, and then there's some who actually are following the last wishes of their Primarch. And when you think about the 10th Legion, what are they called again? The Iron Hands. The Iron Hands, yes. They lost their Primarch on Istavon 5. They were also at the verge of breaking themselves apart, the Legion, imploding on itself. But they rallied together, and they still kept themselves loyal to the Imperium of Man. And as a united Legion, they still fought against the traitors. So I find it quite interesting that this Legion has failed in that endeavor to follow the last words of their Primarch. Maybe because they are criminals, and their criminal mindset is still with them. Even when they're supposed to be loyal to their Primarch, that part of themselves still creeps up on them, and it assumes control. Their criminal aspects, if I can say that. So, yeah. It's actually good that the Night Lords are separated, are weaker, because if they were united, they would have really been a very serious problem for the Imperium of Man. And the way they conduct their wars, or their raids, if I can say that, it's just it's terrifying. It can put fear in anyone's heart. The things that they do, it's just no wild beast would ever do what these guys are doing. How they torture human beings, how they kill human beings slowly, not fast, slowly. It would have really been a very difficult situation for the Imperium of Man to deal with. So if they're separating as a legion and they're breaking apart, that's actually good. We can pick them off one by one. Yeah.
Minor bodyguard escorts. Disgruntlement, hollowness, and even sorrow, amusingly enough, seeped out of most of them. Voimir may have found the entire defeatist scene amusing if it was not for the two pollutants spreading their toxins into the room, survivors of Scrivox cadre.
Clearly, you all should swear fealty to me. My warband already matches the numbers of everyone here put together, preserved
He sounds like a weasel.
by my leadership. With our combined might, we could easily establish our own holding in the neighboring systems, one peacocked. You were rearguard, and the first to abscond from Terra, the other accused. That is why your numbers were sustained. I was Scrivox's favored lieutenant, which is why my claws accompanied his at the walls.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just keep fighting each other, guys. Keep fighting each other.
Ducti chaff was all we sacrificed. My veteran corps remains, and we can force obedience if we wanted to, but that would be a foolish waste of father's blood.
The haughty invocation of the Primarch earned him multiple glares, which then doubled after his next words.
Instead of trying to hold ground, we should simply cut a swath through the withering Imperium's belly, and trade carnage, slaughter, and worship for the blessings of the ruinous powers.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Which ruinous power are you going to worship? Or are you going to be undivided?
And so they argued, practically losing themselves to each other's gibberish. Oh, how he yearned to just shut them off. But he could not, as he was also sampling the emotions of one other, a simmering hatred that some of the others present, who bore no psychic curse, could probably also feel. Shenzak. Through the drudgery of the situation, Voimir was about to put a hand on his brother's shoulder, intending to counsel him against wasting wrath on the idiotic pair, but it would be too late. Within mere heartbeats, the Nostraman pulled up his plasma pistol and melted the pirate's head off of his shoulders, then tackled the cultist to the ground and began to mercilessly pommel him, denting the floor's plating.
Yes, kill each other. Kill each other.
Few among the gathered adjusted their bodies to step forward, but halted when they noticed the others. None of them would dare make a move and give an opening. Recovering from the surprise attack, the scum tried fighting back, spitting out a mouthful of acid, but Tarth blocked it with his hand, which he then drove into his prey's skull. Only his labored breathing filled the room as he stood up. With a single turn of his head, his eyes went over the other officers as he spoke. Riches? Blessings? Those are nothing but lies, no different than the chains the false emperor or his damned son gave us. We and our Primarch were nothing but tools to them, and the scum. His formerly red hand, now stripped to shining silver by the acid, pointed.
But yes, I think that's Shenzak who's talking. Yes, you're a tool. I don't know why are you fighting that? I don't know why are you finding this as a disappointment, a realization that you're just a tool. Yes, that's what you are. That's what all of you are. You're not supposed to have any dreams or aspirations of something greater than what you are. A tool. Yet it's something else that the Emperor has failed to truly control when it comes to the Astartes. With the Custodians, he managed to do that quite well. They don't think of themselves, as a person of value. They understand that they are tools that are meant to be used by the Emperor, and they have no, ill emotions or expectations from the Emperor to love them in a certain way, or to see them or to value them in a certain way. They understand what they are. But for some reason, when it comes to the Astartes, they just never understood that. They just never got that point. That they are just tools. They are to be used until death. That is your duty. Anything beyond that, you should not be thinking about any of that.
Towards the dead pair at his feet, fit only to be discarded when we outlive our use.
Exactly. That's what you were meant for. That is what you were meant for.
Well, I refuse to wear another chain. His finger now clanged against his armored chest. Our father, condemned by this forsaken universe, gave unto us one purpose: to be vengeance incarnate. That is what I, and those who choose to follow me, will become. Not merely to the loyalists. No. We will claim our bloody retribution from every single cur that wronged the Primarch and the Legion. No matter how long it takes, no matter how sick our methods, through arms, poison, deceit, and whatever else it takes, we will see all of our enemies dead. The Golden Throne and its slaves, Horus' accursed progeny, and those that fell alongside him, the corruptive devils they worship, any man or alien that gets in our way, and especially the filth daring to walk about clad in midnight who made us fall to ruin.
Man, they really hate the Ravens. They really, really hate the Ravens.
They will all die as we rebuild the 8th as it should have been. Strong.
I'm afraid you won't have the space or the time to rebuild the 8th Legion. I'm afraid you just won't have any of that opportunity. The Imperium of Man will make sure to contain the threat that you pose. They won't be able to eliminate you completely, but they will be able to contain the threat. You'll be minimized. Your threat will just be a blimp compared to far larger, greater threats in the galaxy. Your revenge is childish. It is irrelevant. But do as you please.
Looked down at his hands, grimacing at the remaining red one. Violently, he spat his own acid upon it, letting it sizzle and linger until both of his gauntlets were like gleaming silver. And pure. Shenzak looked back at his audience. Who among you will stand with me? Deafening silence gripped the room for nearly a solid minute before a sergeant decided to step forward, extending a hand towards the captain. The rest would never know if he would have taken it, as Voimir's stolen hammer struck the sergeant's midsection, ripping his body in two and letting the combat knife he had concealed in his other hand to clamber on the floor.
Wow. Yeah, keep fighting each other, guys. Keep fighting each other.
Everyone else shared momentary glimpses of consideration. Then, one after the other, they swore their loyalty, what little was left of it, to Shenzak's banner until finally the Terran gave his own oath.
I swear to you, brother, I will ensure that the Eight's purity will never again falter.
That earned him a smile from his now captain.
The Eight's purity will never falter. Alright.
Who shook his hand before lifting it and declaring, "The law of the night above all else!" A phrase that the rest of their now warband began to chant, growing ever more zealous. The knight's children were dead. Any ties to a past life were dead. But despite it all, Voimir managed a thin smile, swearing to himself to avenge them all, as he should have done long ago, even if it was technically in the name of the debased beast whose blood he carried, like Shenzak had said, whatever it takes. Thus, solemnly, he donned the modified angelic visage that was his trophy and repeated their order's promise.
What?
Lex Noctis Super Omnia.
Wait a minute, so he's adorning himself with the helmet of the Blood Angel. Wow. Wow. First he takes a warhammer from a salamander, and now he's taking the helmet from a Blood Angel. This guy, he's weird. He's weird.
A tad longer than normal, and hopefully worthy of your favor, because the warband whose birth
It was. Thank you.
we just witnessed is likely to make return appearances in the future. Or, maybe, it has even appeared in the past delusional tales already.
Yes, I've been told by Haldrake77777 that this is related to Doomfate Humanity. If you guys haven't watched Doomfate Humanity, go watch it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Yes, and you'll also understand what Desrat is talking about.
Them aside, do you know of any other Terran-born Astartes, be they loyalist or traitor, whose stories captivated you? Please feel free to share, as I would love to read about them in the comments below. After that, you can head to the community tab and give your vote for the order of the upcoming content themes. Death Guard seem to be in a solid lead, but who knows how things turn out by the end of the month. However they may get lined up, do look forward to what is being cooked up. For now, I would really appreciate it if you smashed that like button and check out another video that may be of interest to you on the channel. Also, I'd like to give a very special thanks to Radiant Gust for his phenomenal voice work as Voimir in this video. Until next time.
He sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger. He really did.
I wish you a lovely rest of your day. Do viždane.
Alright guys, yeah, that is it. Let me just read the title again of Rage of the Emperor's Lost Children, First Steps to Purity. Warhammer 40k lore exploration made on the Desrat YouTube channel. Yeah, you know, these 8th Legion Astartes simply just don't understand. Well, let me just say, Shenzak, he doesn't understand the program, if I can say that. He doesn't understand the program. He doesn't understand, or he wishes not to accept the truth that he is a weapon designed by the Emperor, specifically created for a task, and that is to conquer the galaxy in the name of the Emperor of Mankind and the Imperium of Man. Simple. None of your dreams or your aspirations or your love for your Primarch is supposed to supersede that. You are a weapon, and you failed at your task. Now, this notion of wanting revenge in the name of your Primarch, it is pointless. It is childish. It is a waste of time. I don't know what else you could do with your time now because you're traitors. But honestly, this type of notion that you're out to seek revenge is just a waste of energy. But I guess you need an enemy to fight, because if you don't have one, the 8th Legion will just further unravel itself, and you know, more and more of these Astartes will just break apart into smaller war bands that would terrorize the galaxy like pirates. And the 8th Legion would thus be irrelevant and defunct. So you're purely doing this for your own survival, clearly. Also, Vormir, the way he thinks about other Astartes legions and the way he thinks about his own legion and his own Primarch, it is different, compared to other Terran-born Astartes, who we've always been told that they were loyal, they were extremely loyal to the Emperor of Mankind, they were loyal to their Primarchs. Some of them even turned their backs on their Primarchs to fight for the Imperium of Man against their gene sires. So definitely Vormir, I think he is also in Doomfaith Humanity. I'm not entirely sure. I think he's there. In that storyline, I do support the Night Lords because they are needed against the Tyranids in that situation. But beyond that situation, no, they are enemies, they're traitors, they need to be killed off. I don't know who's going to do it, but they just need to die. And yeah, when it comes to the Terran-born Astartes and how they were treated, like Desrat has just stated, that you could say that this is some sort of karma because of how they helped in the extermination of the Thunder Warriors together with the Custodians. You could say that this is some sort of karma that has come back at them, and they have suffered, definitely. They were so happy when they first found their Primarchs. They were so ecstatic and just joyful that they have their gene sire with them, only to find out later on through the days, the weeks, the months, and the years that their Primarch is not what they imagined he would be. Especially when you think about the word bearers, not the word bearers, the world eaters. Yes, they thought that their Primarch would be this amazing figure that they would follow till death, and that he would love them and respect them and give them the type of support that they see other Primarchs giving their Astartes. They thought their father was going to be like that, but he was never like that. And now when you think about also the Terran-born Astartes belonging to the Night Lords, the 8th Legion, when they met their Primarch, I wonder how did they feel? Were they also disappointed in their Primarch, or were they just so stricken with fear, to be before their Primarch that they did not think about anything else beyond the fact that they have their Primarch back in their legion? I'm just wondering, how did they feel? Because here we do have a little story about Vormir, but I'm just wondering about everybody else that were Terran-born when they finally met the Primarch. Was it elation, or was it terror? That they could not truly express how they truly felt that they met up with their Primarch. But then slowly, the legion started transforming into a Nostraman legion of Astartes, and criminality was rife. Criminality was the game of the day, and it was not the same legion that left Terra, definitely. And yeah, this is just the fate of all of these Astartes that came from Terra. Once they met their Primarchs, things changed permanently and drastically. And like I've stated before, this is something that I wish the Emperor had already instilled in these super soldiers, that they are tools, and your death means nothing. This is what is expected of you. If I tell you to go fight and to die, you're not supposed to question it. You're not supposed to ask yourself, does my father love me? That's not what you're supposed to be asking. You're just supposed to say yes, and you proceed to the enemy and you fight until you die. That's it. But for some reason the Emperor, he thought making the Astartes this way with their human emotions, still intact in some sort of way inside them is a good thing. And it wasn't. Clearly it wasn't. It became a liability. Because the Astartes followed the Primarchs into heresy. They followed the Primarchs into traitorous thoughts. And that costed the Imperium of Man. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, guys, that's it. Thank you again to Desrat for the content and the story behind this particular Night Lord, Vormir, as well as Shanzak. I don't know if we're going to see him again. Shanzak, maybe not. We'll see. But yes, thank you again for the story. And also thank you to Heldrake77777 for the request. It's been really good. And that's it, guys. Remember, if you want to check out the original video as well as Desrat's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I'll see you guys next time. Okay? Bye-bye.